Hi again, and thank you for joining me for podcast number 132, entitled Cognitive Dissonance. It appears to me the world right now is suffering from a serious case of cognitive dissonance. Sports is an easy example of this, but there are many equally great/terrible examples in politics as well. The definition of cognitive dissonance is that it is a noun, and it is the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions or an attitude change. So recently I read the book called Loser Think by Scott Adams, and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. He wrote quite a bit about this same topic, and I guess it influenced me to kind of do the same. The premise of his book is that we are not teaching people how to think critically and judge situations unemotionally and from a place of detachment from ourselves in order to find as close to the truth as possible. I was trying to think of a good analogy for this, and I didn't have to go far. It always amazes me watching sports, let's say football, for example, where there's an entire stadium who is watching the replay on the big screen, and the opposing team sees it one way, and the home team sees it another. Each half of the stadium thinks that the video is evidence of their point of view, and their conviction to their team is so strong that it squashes the ability to see something objectively. People literally get into fights in the crowd sometimes, defending the point of view against someone from the other team that see things the opposite way that they do. That may very well be a solid definition of crazy, if you ask me. If you watch the news these days, you get a tremendous dose of this same effect all the time. You probably choose your news coverage based on which political party you identify most with. That means that CNN gives you the version that they agree with, and Fox News, who is their enemy, has to be lying, and the story that they report is wrong. Or vice versa, of course. They are biased and trying to make the president look bad or good by spinning the details of that particular situation. Hate to break it to you, but all of the news channels are doing the same thing. There probably was a time long ago where you could rely on someone who was a talking head on TV to actually give you an accurate account of something that has occurred, most of the facts, and call that the truth. Nowadays, it just doesn't happen. If you agree with most of the viewpoints that they have, they can easily stretch and bend the details into making everything seem to align with that same narrative. We all fall for it. We're all guilty of it, and it is very, very hard to avoid that because it happens to us on a daily basis, for sure. In my opinion, and I believe in Scott Adams' opinion as well, this is the major reason why the world is in the state of disarray that it is in today. Scare tactics and tragedies sell way better than anything else, so this is what we are fed a steady diet of. We are rapidly losing the ability to have a conversation with someone that disagrees with our point of view and keep it civil. Our country is based on civil discourse and open debate, and those things are going by the wayside. People seem to choose a side and defend that ideology no matter what. If you support President Trump, he can do no wrong. And if you hate President Trump, nothing he does is right. There seems to be no in-between ground, no parsing out of the details. This tribal mentality is one of the drivers of the behavior that we see today. When I think about the world and what I wish for it, I have a very specific example. September 12th, 2001. We as a country have never been closer, at least during my lifetime, than we were that day. In fact, the whole world was a closer place because of the events of September 11th. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was looking out for one another, gave the shirt off of their back for those in need, supported those who had lost a loved one, and much more. It was the peak of citizens in the U.S. all being on the same page, all living in harmony, despite the tragedy that had occurred 24 hours before. There were no agendas, no partisanship. We, as the citizens, were all one. Things like race and creed and color, political affiliations, none of that crap mattered. We all had something in common. We were scared. We were very vulnerable for the first time in a really long time. And that vulnerability brought all of us to the same table. The rest of the world felt our pain, and in some cases came to our aid. The Maasai tribe in Africa actually gave the gift of 14 cattle to the United States government to ease our suffering. Look that one up. It's true. And as oblique of a gesture as that sounds to somebody who lives in the United States, the gift of 14 cattle from a tribe of people who is very, very small and who absolutely rely on cattle for food and other means of life, that was a tremendous offering on their behalf. That gesture gets lost in translation, but believe me, it was an amazing gesture. We didn't ask. 9/11 happened, and people gave, plain and simple. It was human kindness on one of its best displays. I am not sure how we right the ship and get back on course to the way things were before. Previous days were not perfect either, but by comparison, we are way off track. And I think social media is picking and choosing what information that you see, because apps like Facebook and others are using algorithms that push anger-inciting news to your phone to keep you engaged and to some degree make you feel like you're surrounded by scary things, tragedy, and misinformation all the time. There is a way out, though. You need to work more on reading a headline or a tweet about something, and before you form an opinion, look into it. Don't take those 280 characters or that clickbait of a title as gospel. You need to dig into it a little bit. Look at it from both sides of the aisle. Ask others. Do some research and try to come to your own conclusions based on what you can uncover. There is a lot of bad information out there, so make sure that you're diligent in your search. Otherwise, you'll just end up confirming what you started out thinking all along. And again, I highly recommend Scott Adams' book. I think he does an awesome job of articulating many different points on this topic and more throughout that book. It's one of the best reads I've had in a while, and I highly recommend it. This is not a paid endorsement by any means. I am an Amazon affiliate, so if you click on the link through my blog, I will receive, I don't know, $1 maybe for that. I'm not even sure. But this is not a paid endorsement. It's my personal opinion about the book. I felt like I gained an awful lot from it. And of course, that's something I would want to share with others. As always, I wish you luck in your endeavors. So some additional thoughts on that. The sports analogy was easy. And one of the things that I really can't stand about going to watch live sporting events is sitting in the crowd listening to people who don't know shit about sports or have such a strong biased opinion that they can't see what actually happened objectively if it happens against the benefit of their team. That kind of disassociation drives me crazy, and that literally detracts from the experience of being at that sporting event. Going to a party, going to a Super Bowl party at somebody's house, unfortunately has the same effect on me sometimes. There's people who, especially somebody who has made a bet on the game, everything that happens has to go their way or they just lose their shit about it. And I just don't really want to be around somebody like that. For one thing, I'm a casual sports fan. I enjoy sports. I watch football. Occasionally I watch baseball. I'm a huge UFC fan. I love pro tennis, men's and women's. But I don't live and die by it. I don't play I'm not in a fantasy football league. I don't waste my time, in my opinion, distracting my life with sports. It is something that I partake in when I have the opportunity, but I don't change plans or, build schedule other social events around some type of sporting event like my team is playing on Saturday. So sorry, we're going to have to skip your wedding. We won't be able to show up. It's not how I live my life. Some people do and think that that's the way to do it. Great, more power to you. But for me, not how I want to structure my days. But anyway, back to the point. We are really losing the ability to have civil discourse and discussions to learn from the other side, from somebody with a different opinion, in a huge hurry in this country. I don't know how we turn things around. I'm hoping that this is a pendulum swing to the extreme, and we've hit that on this side, and we're going to end up somewhere back in the middle, or at least heading the other direction before too long. If you've been around long enough to see the escalation of the political ads over the past several presidential elections, things have gotten ugly and personal and very tribal in their approach, and that is not helping things for sure. When somebody who's a presidential candidate spends $1 billion trying to influence the thought processes of others, you can be assured that some of that information is going to be false or altered or edited to fit their narrative, and just continue driving a wedge between all of the groups of us that live here in the U.S. We should look at ourselves as citizens, and the differences should be celebrated, not pointed out or used as a basis of judgment and things like that. Obviously, that's easier said than done. I don't surround myself with people that can't have a reasonable conversation that we may disagree on. One of the things that I have gotten better about, especially after reading Scott Adams' book, is as soon as somebody says something, my brain immediately jumps to a plausible explanation as to why that may have happened, or why that may have been said, or how that might not be the whole truth. It allows me to expand my thought process and not look through the microscope of my own opinion. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything there is to know. There's so much that goes on in the world that I don't pay any attention to until it's front and center, that I certainly shouldn't be forming any hard and fast opinions on those things. But lots of other people do the same thing. So I want to make sure that I'm not guilty of that, and I want to keep an open mind, have conversations, and learn from other people. I certainly recommend that you try to do the same. The world would be a much better place if we all did more of that. As always, I wish you luck in your endeavors, and while I don't have all of the answers, you're welcome to the answers that I do have. If you think I could be of assistance, please reach out to me on my website at darrenchatter.com, or through either Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn at Darren Chatter. I would be happy to help in any way that I can. I wish you luck with your endeavors. Thank you for joining me on the Darren Chatter podcast. I'm going to be reading some of my blog posts that I have written so that you can consume this information in an audio format versus reading the blogs if this is more to your liking. I'm going to share with you stories from my past as an athlete, as a coach, as a salesperson, as a business professional, as a VP of sales. Everything that I have learned and amassed along the way in my 50 years here on planet Earth, I'm going to hope to share with you in order to help you shorten your learning curve, understand maybe a little different way to look at things, and hopefully learn a few things along the way. So here was the podcast you tuned in for. I hope you enjoy it. Please reach out to me when you can and let me know your thoughts. Thank you.